The morning was cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and makes you question if you'll ever feel warm again. I stood in front of the cracked mirror in my tiny apartment, tugging at the collar of my second-hand blazer. It was a size too big, the sleeves hanging awkwardly over my wrists, but it was the best I could afford. My reflection stared back at me, a tired version of myself with dark circles under my eyes and a nervous twitch in my jaw. Today was the day, the interview that could change everything. A junior analyst position at Harper & Sons, a mid-tier financial firm that, to me, might as well have been Goldman Sachs. It was my shot, my one chance to climb out of the hole I'd been stuck in for years. I'd spent weeks preparing, poring over spreadsheets, memorizing industry terms, and practicing my handshake in front of this very mirror. But as I adjusted my tie, a cheap, slightly frayed thing I'd bought at a thrift store, I couldn't shake the knot in my stomach. It wasn't just nerves about the interview. It was her. My mother. Her voice echoed in my head, sharp and unyielding, from the phone call last night. I'd called her, hoping for a shred of encouragement, a simple, "You've got this, Ethan." Instead, when I asked her to wish me luck, she snorted. "Luck won't fix you, Ethan," she said, her voice dripping with that familiar mix of disappointment and disdain. "You think one interview's going to make up for all the times you've screwed up? You're not ready for this, and you know it." Those words had hit me like a punch to the gut, and they'd been looping in my mind ever since, each syllable carving a deeper wound. I shook my head, trying to push her voice away, and grabbed my keys. I had to focus. I had to prove her wrong. The walk to the bus stop was a blur. The city was waking up, horns blaring, people rushing past with their coffee cups and briefcases. I felt like an imposter among them, like I didn't belong in their world of purpose and ambition. My mother's words kept creeping back, reminding me of every failure she'd cataloged over the years. The time I dropped out of college because I couldn't keep up with the coursework. The time I got fired from my barista job for mixing up orders one too many times. The time I crashed her car because I was too distracted arguing with her on the phone. She never let me forget any of it. To her, I was a walking disaster, a 27-year-old who couldn't get his life together. And maybe she was right. Maybe I wasn't ready for this interview. Maybe I'd fumble the questions, forget the formulas, or trip over my own words like I always did when I was nervous. But I had to try. I had to. The bus pulled up and I climbed aboard, finding a seat near the back. The woman next to me was scrolling through her phone, her earbuds blasting music I could faintly hear. I envied her ease, her ability to exist in the world without carrying the weight of someone else's judgment. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app, where I jotted down key points about Harper & Sons. Revenue growth, 12% last quarter. Key clients, mid-sized tech firms. Core values, integrity, innovation, collaboration. I repeated the words under my breath, trying to anchor myself. But my mother's voice kept breaking through. Luck won't fix you. What did that even mean? Did she think I was broken beyond repair? That I was destined to fail no matter what I did? I closed my eyes and leaned my head against the window, the glass cool against my forehead. I couldn't let her win. Not this time. The Harper & Sons building was a sleek, glass monstrosity that loomed over the street like a giant watching over ants. I stood outside for a moment, clutching my folder of resumes and references, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. The lobby was even more intimidating, marble floors, modern art on the walls, and a receptionist who looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. I gave her my name, my voice cracking slightly, and she directed me to the 14th floor. The elevator ride felt like an eternity, each ding of the floors passing like a countdown to judgment. When the doors opened, I was greeted by a woman in her 40s with a sharp bob and a no-nonsense smile. "Ethan Carter?" she asked, extending her hand. "I'm Rachel, HR manager. We're ready for you." I nodded, shaking her hand, and followed her to a conference room with a long table and floor-to-ceiling windows. Two other interviewers were already there. A man with a gray beard and a woman with glasses perched on her nose. They introduced themselves as Mark and Lisa, both senior analysts. I sat down, my palms sweaty, and tried to smile. Rachel started with the usual questions. "Tell us about yourself. Why do you want to work at Harper & Sons?" I'd rehearsed these answers 100 times, and I managed to get through them without stumbling too much. But then Mark leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Let's get technical," he said. "Walk us through how you'd analyze a company's cash flow statement." My mind went blank. I knew this. I'd studied this. But under the weight of their stares, my mother's voice crept in again. "You're not ready for this." I fumbled, stammering something about operating cash flow and net income, but I could tell from their expressions I was missing the mark. Lisa jumped in with another question, this one about risk assessment, and I felt myself sinking deeper. By the time they asked me to solve a hypothetical scenario involving a client's budget shortfall, I was barely holding it together. I left the room an hour later, my face burning, convinced I'd blown it, Back at my apartment, I collapsed onto the couch, still in my blazer, and stared at the ceiling. The interview had been a disaster. I'd seen the way Mark's eyebrows had shot up when I'd mixed up my terms, the way Lisa had scribbled something on her notepad with a frown. I wanted to call my mother to tell her she was right, that I was a failure, that I'd never be more than the screw-up she saw me as. But I didn't. Instead, I grabbed my laptop and opened the job board where I'd found the Harper & Sons listing. There were other opportunities, I told myself. Other chances. But the thought of starting over, of facing more rejections, felt like too much. I thought about my childhood, about the way my mother had always compared me to my older sister, Claire, who'd graduated top of her class and landed a job at a law firm straight out of college. Claire who never made mistakes. Claire who my mother adored. I'd spent my whole life trying to measure up and I was still falling short. My phone buzzed and I saw a text from my best friend Sam. "How'd it go?" he asked. I typed out a reply. "Bombed it." And hit send before I could overthink it. Sam called me immediately. "Dude, you're being too hard on yourself," he said. "You prepared like crazy. If they can't see that, it's their loss." I wanted to believe him, but all I could hear was my mother's snort, her words cutting through me like a knife. "Luck won't fix you." I hung up with Sam and sat in the dark, the weight of the day pressing down on me. But somewhere deep inside a spark flickered. I wasn't done yet. I couldn't be. I had to keep going, if only to prove her wrong. The next few days were a haze. I sent out more applications, tweaked my resume, and tried to focus on anything but the interview. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd let myself down, that I'd let her words define me. On Friday my phone rang. It was Rachel from Harper & Sons. My heart stopped. "Ethan," she said, her voice calm but unreadable, "we'd like you to come in for a second interview next week." I nearly dropped the phone. A second interview? How? I'd been so sure I'd failed. I stammered out a thank you, and when I hung up I sat there stunned. For the first time in days I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I wasn't as broken as my mother thought. Maybe I had a chance. I spent the weekend preparing harder than ever, diving into financial models, watching YouTube tutorials, and practicing my answers in front of the mirror. I even called Claire, who, to my surprise, offered to help. "You've got this, Ethan," she said, and for once I didn't feel like she was just humoring me. The night before the second interview, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mother's words still lingering but quieter now. I wasn't doing this for her anymore. I was doing it for me.